In the news with updates on End Bad Governance protests, Nigeria's service chiefs and the Inspector General of Police have pledged to resist any unlawful change of government amid the End Bad Governance protest. In a security briefing in Abuja, they pledged to defend the nation's democracy. Chief of Defense Staff Christopher Musa said the military and security agencies are targeting those advocating an undemocratic government change. Chief of Army Staff Tawarid Lagbaja also emphasized the Army's commitment to deploying resources to combat the riots sparked by the protests to ensure peace. In his remark, Chief of Naval Staff Emmanuel Ogala assured continued collaboration with other security agencies for maritime security. Away from that story now, still staying with the End Bad Governance protest, Nigeria security agencies are currently investigating at least 4 politicians from the northern region over the use of Russian flags by the End Bad Governance protesters. Reports indicate that these political figures from Katsina, Kaduna and Kano states played key roles in encouraging the use of Russian flags among demonstrators to incite an unconstitutional regime change. The nationwide protest against hardship and hunger escalated on Monday, with protesters in several northern states waving Russian flags and chanting, "Tinubu must go." In Kaduna, protesters were also seen waving the Russian flag and chanting in Hausa that Tinubu must step down. Let's bring to you more updates on that. Well, residents of Kaduna metropolis have also called on the state government to ease the 24-hour curfew imposed on the state capital Kaduna and the neighboring city of Zaria following widespread violence that broke out during a recent protest. They say the curfew, which has necessitated patrols by security operatives, is taking its toll on their livelihoods. Many residents are unable to access their farms, businesses and other economic activities. Well, News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Ahmad Bello Way, Kaduna, the busy express road leading to Zaria and Kano, now seems like a ghost town. Security operatives are not leaving any stone unturned in an attempt to enforce the 24-hour curfew imposed by the state government. Other major roads, business areas and public facilities are all quiet. Residents were seen at the street corners looking helpless and hoping that the curfew will be relaxed.
Without salary and being the copy in place, I cannot be having access to go to other activities for me to get something to sustain my life with my family. So I do find it difficult at this moment.
If the governor will actually look into this matter and remove the curfew for us, a lot of people will be happy.
The farmer cannot go to the farm because of the curfew which is going on in the state, and which, if they do not go to the farm, I'm telling you, the crops there will get spoiled, and next year more hungry will come up, and if care is not taken, it will come to a time that the government cannot even control the masses, because we are angry, because there's a code that said an hungry man is an angry man.
Some of them threw their weight behind government's decision, saying the curfew had become apt following the violence that escalated during the protest in the state.
Akwai yara da muka zo muna zaune mu muna ta control irin mu tabbatar da mun ga yara na wuce area mu ba fada ba komai mu area mu ba san rikici tunda mu ungon shafa ba san zaman lafiya ne. Sai daga ba muka ga yara suna zuwa da karafuna da me suna ta koran mutane da karafuna cikin gidaje. So we are not happy, but we
expect if anything related to protests, it will go peacefully. But along the line, due to there's some lapses from the youth that are arrogance. But we are praying to God for anything to become calm. We pray for peace, and Alhamdulillah, by mere looking, our youths are complying.
Considering the level of cooperation the residents of Kaduna and Zaria have shown to the Kaduna state government, it is anticipated that this curfew will be relaxed soon. In Kaduna, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Well, joining us from Kaduna, News Central correspondent Emmanuel Bagudu is here live. Well, you've been monitoring the situation. Today is supposed to be day 7, if I'm right, of the bad governance protest or the hunger protest. Can you tell us what the situation simply is like in Kaduna this morning?
Of the bad governance protest, and of course day 2 of the 24 hours curfew imposed here in Kaduna State. It's actually really biting hard on the residents, and they're really not finding it funny at all. A lot of groan. You saw the story we shared yesterday about the governor going around to inspect the extent of the damage done by these vandals. And of course, the outcome of that inspection is what will actually determine whether the governor is going to relax the curfew or not. We expect to see him in Zaria today to actually know whether he will decide by the time he gets to Zaria to inspect the situation to know whether he's going to relax the curfew or not. But for now, the situation is really very tough. And we have a lot of travelers, stranded. I have one traveler here who is already stranded. He's an essential traveler. He's actually really affected. So he really wants to speak his mind, how the curfew affected him. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name is Bulus Ilyas Sauri, and my popular name is Lofas. That's the general name. So, all these ways happen, we actually give thanks to God, because what we are expecting is going to happen is not happening that way side. So, bayan Allah mu gode ma Allah yanda Allah ya taimake mu har Allah ya kawo irin yau lafiya kuma cire da lafiya. Saboda duk dabarun mun guji mun gani dabarun shaitan Allah ya kawar da shi muna saniyan yau. Muna sa da zaton yau gwamna zai zagaya Kaduna State da duba yanayin hali da ake ciki ya ƙara wucewa Zaria je duba ya gani, saboda ya tabbatar da cewa an samu zaman lafiya, so da mu gani ko zai iya daga wannan kofi ko za a ci gaba.
To kakanin za ka yi tafiya ta yaya ne wannan kofin ya hana ka yi wannan tafiya?
Wallahi tun shekaran jiya a daure nake cararrab cikin gida gaba ɗaya ba ci ba sha nake gaya maka, daga ruwa she ruwa. Ni dai wannan jaraba ne fa, masifa ne wannan. Tun kafin a bara wannan abin an ce karayi jama'a sun kiji, saboda ana gudun irin wannan yanayi. To gashi an shiga kowa wallahi uban sai yake ci a Kaduna State. Kuma wallahi mu jama kanmu.
To Allah da zaka samu motin samu na kan Allah. Mun gode.
To Allah ya ba mu.
So what he's just trying to say is that actually the curfew is very biting hard on citizens, and then of course he's actually warning the looters who actually made the governor to impose this curfew. And then he's calling on the governor to actually look into the situation, because he intends to travel right now. He can't travel. He intends to go out to look for food for his family. He can't. So that's just what he just said summarily in Hausa. Thank you.
All right. Well, Emmanuel Bagudu, I'd like to ask one very last question to you. Looking at the environment where you stand, you can see it's a bit scanty. We hardly see people coming out. Any idea when this curfew would be lifted? Is there any idea?
Yes. The only idea I have is the fact that the governor is going to make a statement of the outcome of his inspection yesterday. He started the inspection yesterday. He went around. A lot of banks were destroyed. Public facilities were destroyed. Even government facilities owned by the state. Those facilities, he has to, first of all, give a report of the outcome of his investigation and inspection. He has not visited Zaria yet. Zaria is tensed after the Nigerian army clashed with youths in Samaru area of Zaria local government. And you saw the statement by the Nigerian army this morning. Onyema Nwachukwu, who made a statement about the clash, saying that it was just an error between the military. So we expect the governor to be in Zaria. And then, of course, after he has concluded all his inspections and investigations, that's the time we can actually say whether the governor is going to relax the curfew or not. Yeah.
All right. Can you confirm to us the death of the 16-year-old who was killed during that clash? And is there any latest update on another death that has been recorded?
No death yet. Just like we said, the statement from the army is very clear that it was an error. The enforcement of the curfew, just like we discussed yesterday, is being carried out by the officers of the Nigerian army, because the situation is so overwhelming for the police that the army have to come in at the point. That is why you see the Nigerian army van going around and ensuring that people comply with the curfew. But for now, that's just the only incident recorded, the one in Zaria. There is no any other incident again. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Emmanuel Bagudu, and we'll get back to you with more information on what's happening in Kaduna State. Let's move on now to our very next story. Let's tell you that earlier on Tuesday, our correspondent Bernard Akede was indeed harassed by suspected thugs. We'll bring to you that story as well, and that happened in Ojota as well. But then again, Kaduna State Governor, by the way, has described the violence during the recent End Bad Governance protest as politically motivated, aimed at destabilizing the current administration at both state and federal levels. The governor stated this while addressing journalists during an inspection of public and private properties, including shops that were vandalized by hoodlums during the protests. Again, our correspondent Emmanuel Bugudu, who joined us earlier, shared this report.
This is the aftermath of the destruction by hoodlums who infiltrated the recent #End Bad Governance protest in the Kaduna metropolis. The hoodlums vandalized government and private offices and looted shops in Kaduna and Zaria metropolis, the Kaduna Investment Promotion Agency, the Kaduna Traffic Law Enforcement Agency in both Zaria and Kaduna, and also new banks. Accompanied by top heads of security agencies and a deputy inspector general of police, the governor Obasani inspected the branch of one of the vandalized banks at Tudunwada in the Kaduna South local government area.
Today the central market is closed. All our markets in Kaduna are closed. Businesses that are owned by the downtrodden, the middle class, are closed. If you go to Zaria, the same thing is happening. So a lot of innocent people who are even struggling are losing a lot.
He described the violent protests as politically motivated and aimed at destabilizing the present administration.
When you see young children between the ages of even 9, 10, 11, and even 14, now raising the flag of another country, you will agree with me that it's well sponsored, designed by some elements who are calling for anarchy in our own country. And of course, they took advantage by using the psychology of those children, knowing fully that here in northern Nigeria, our people are close to our neighboring countries like Niger. And of course, they have been able to use their psychology, making them to believe that what happened in Niger can happen in Nigeria, what happened in Burkina Faso can happen in Nigeria, what happened in Mali.
The outcome of the governor's inspection will determine if the 24-hour curfew imposed by the government will be eased. In Kaduna State for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
We'll bring to you more news and stories after the break. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on News Now. Earlier on Tuesday, our senior correspondent Bernard Akede was harassed by suspected thugs at Ojota while giving a live situation report at the Ojota protest ground in Lagos State. Our correspondent, who fortunately escaped with his crew without injuries, expressed shock that the incident happened in the full view of policemen detailed to protect lives and maintain peace. We'll bring you that footage in the course of the news bulletin, but let's also tell you more that in the meantime, News Central Managing Director and Editor-in-Chief Kayode Akintemi, alongside lead reporter Bernard Akede, visited the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, CP Adegoke Fayoade, following the attack on the News Central crew at the Ojota area of the state. CP Fayoade assured that the perpetrators will be brought to book. Meanwhile, Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission has called on all relevant authorities in the country to investigate incidents of rights violations on innocent protesters and journalists during the ongoing nationwide demonstrations. The commission also urged them to ensure perpetrators are brought to justice. Idong Joseph completes this report. All right, I understand that we'll bring to you that report later on, but let's quickly move on, still talking about the security and the threat to lives of journalists and, of course, protesters. Well, joining us now is public affairs analyst Saka Adeyemi, joins me this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's nice to be here, Hanson. How are you doing? It's been a while.
It's been a while. Not bad, not bad. Well, let's take a look at the current situation, especially with what you've heard in the course of the news bulletin. Now, what do you think? What specific measures should the police implement to indeed ensure the safety of journalists covering protests in the country? I'm aware, or I'm sure that you are aware of what happened to one of our reporters, Bernard Akede, at the Ojota ground.
Well, let me jump into it. If you're expecting anything from the police, if you're expecting any decisive punitive actions or what any kind of name you want to give any positive action from the police, you're probably being delusional. This is me trying to be, diplomatic and mild with my choice of words. There's nothing good that can come out of the Nigerian police when it comes to human rights violations and what have you. I've been at the receiving end of these of their brutality quite often. When I was in university, a police officer drew his sidearm at me, said he's going to kill me and nothing was going to happen. And that is a phrase we heard from them, regularly. On my way to Port Harcourt last year, December, just between the border town, in between the border town between Bayelsa and River State, a police officer to cock his rifle said he was going to shoot me if I didn't even get that from the vehicle to even talk to him or what in the presence of a superior officer. So, having said this, you probably don't expect the police are enablers. They're probably the number one violators of human rights. I don't care what anybody wants to say. I don't care how much they deploy for perception management or PR. That's the truth, and the truth must be laid out there for Nigerians to cooperate. Now, when it comes to the issue of thugs in Lagos State, and people might want to frown at this. There's a saying in Yoruba that there's no way you want to speak about a dog, a meal prepared by dog meal without talking about the pot that was used in cooking it. Thugs became emboldened in Lagos State by, whether we like it or not, patronage of governments of Lagos State over the years. There's hardly any state policy when it comes to implementation of anything whatsoever that the Lagos State government doesn't go hand in hand or cooperate without. I live at Ojodu Beja, the side of Lagos State, where there's this ban on Okada, commercial or motorcycles operation. And the last time I witnessed, police came to effect and impose, or probably continue the furtherance of the implementation of the ban. And it came hand in hand with thugs. Thugs brandishing dangerous weapons, knives, and machete, attacking Okada riders. So, what do you expect in a state that has blurred the lines, that has cleared the lines, or probably wiped it off the lines between the state actors and non-state actors? The first time these guys got emboldened was in 2001, when an woman was killed in Oshodi, and we saw the retaliation of the military. Not that I'm endorsing the retaliation of the reaction of the military to that incident. But in 2-3 days, these guys were off the streets of Lagos. Somebody was the governor of Lagos State at that time that went pleading with the military authorities and WhatsApp. And coincidentally, the person is the commander-in-chief as we speak. During the NSAS protest, because let's just put it out there, during the NSAS protest, the protesters were civil, were gentle, were coordinated, were peaceful. We saw several attempts by thugs attacking innocent, peaceful protesters. But what did we find? Nothing. What did the government do? Nothing. There is a popular picture, and I keep saying this on every platform I've been appearing since 2020. A picture of a guy called Osha, identified by Nigerians, that was brandishing a machete, attacking protesters at Alaosa in Lagos. It was recorded, reported, and was never disputed that they were conveyed to that ground on one of those black buses to attack protesters. So what are you saying? There's an incident in Lekki near Elason New Road, where LAPSCA, Lagos State Bid Agency, went to deport. That's another kettle of fish, but they still went through talks. So, and when people were raising anxiety and what have you about the conduct of the protest, I kept saying that my fear or fears is not about the protesters or the protest. It's government actions or responses, and this is it.
Okay.
And
all right.
A quick one from me. Towards the 2023 election, and so I've forgotten his Akisoya, yeah, made a statement, insightful, inflammatory, what have you. that could set the country on fire. The police commissioner was explaining and defending in Solomon that statement was joking. But we saw the aftermath of that statement, what happened during the governorship election in Lagos State. Was Solomon ever questioned, brought in to face charges? So what are you expecting from the police of Lagos State?
All right. I mean, you've listed situations starting from 2020 during the NSAS, that well-publicized picture of the street urchin with a machete. Up until today, nothing has been done. It's actually dovetailed to what we have now currently that took place on Tuesday. We also saw a similar incident that happened during the elections in 2023. Now, do you think if the CP, Adegoke Fayode, assuring that the perpetrators who indeed attacked our senior correspondent, Bernard Akede, be brought to book, do you think if they are brought to book, it will in a way send a message of deterrent, reminding these street urchins that it's no longer business as usual? And do you think it will actually happen?
It won't happen because when it comes to criminal cases and investigation or whatever, there's something called statute of limitation, and it doesn't have it. So let us start by picking up the likes of Ensolom or those that have incited violence in the past. Then we cannot take them seriously when it comes to moving forward. Let them bring Osha to books to account for his deeds. Let them, you see, and let a quick opportunity for me to correct this narrative that they've been pushing out. And this is me jumping to another issue. The NSAS protest was peaceful. The NSAS protest did not bring about destruction in Lagos State. The protest ended when the proclamation of curfew by Lagos State governor kicked in. What happened after, either through the towards in a bit to implement the curfew or aftermath of what happened in Lekki, cannot be said to be done by the protesters, because the protest ended when the governor, in his wisdom or otherwise wisdom, proclaimed curfew in Lagos State. So coming back to this, so how do you, when as a state, go through it? There was a report widely reported in dailies 2022 that the task force members in Oshodi, the popular task force by Lagos State, go through the mobile policemen and last man, what have you. But a commercial bus driver, was burned to death in his bus, and it was said to us by a town trying to implement the laws or probably do the bidding of the task force. So when you have these non-state actors working under the cover, is it the police that they've gone together to do this disastrous, dastardly acts that will apprehend them? Is it the police, the Atigbobo in Lagos State in 2022 as well, when they went on a massive demolition in a bid to enforce environmental laws and what have you? They went there without. So when your touts are your enforcers, please, how can I believe the police? And these police guys, the police officers or what have you, work hand in hand without.
Anyway,
in fact, it has gotten so bad in Lagos State that end smoking is not a regular thing. You see police walk past, leave the touts and start harassing and probably hounding innocent passerby. So if anybody is expecting anything good for the Nigerian police, for the Lagos State Command or the Lagos State government, well, the person is probably telling me that he believes in not miracle but magic.
All right. Dear Mr. Kat, thank you so much for your thoughts and sharing your thoughts concerning this situation. Well, let's see what will come out of that, especially from the CP. Thank you for joining us.
Maybe something good will come out of Nazareth.
Thank you for joining us. Let's move on now. Earlier on, we had told you that the Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission has indeed called on relevant authorities to make sure that they investigate incidences that's gotten to do with the violations of human rights on innocent protesters and journalists. And we also do have our man who indeed put this package and this report together. Idong Joseph, take a look.
In the early hours of Thursday, 1st of August, when the hashtag #EndBadGovernance protest commenced, streets within major cities across the country were quiet and calm. But as the day progressed, protesters began to mobilize themselves at various locations. What was intended to be a peaceful demonstration took a different turn as security operatives tried to disperse crowd using tear gas canister and disproportionate force.
We're going to protest, peace protest. They shoot tear gas anyhow. Look at this side. Why?
On Saturday, right in front of this place here, where they were, protesters were encircled and then tear gas. How do you do that?
Suddenly, the commissioner of police came and he said, why are we here? Why are we at the Eagle Square? Yeah, he told us not to come to Eagle Square and I should bring my phone. He collected my phone and he said that I should be arrested.
Contrary to the alleged use of force and allegations of several citizens losing their lives, the police with other security agencies maintained that no lethal weapons were deployed, but only anti-riot equipment.
Arrests of certain individuals who have been riotous should not be seen as the arrest of protesters. Let us get it clear. There are some states in Nigeria they have been having peaceful protests. Security agencies have been engaging them.
In light of the allegations and denials of rights violations, Nigeria's Human Rights Commission released a statement condemning the use of force and attack on protesters and journalists, calling for an investigation. Other rights activists, while joining their voice to condemn the act, urged the government to address the demands of the protesters.
All law enforcement agencies, they are suffering what we are suffering. We are going to the same market and we are calling on the authority, that for them to really step back and look at, there is hunger in the land.
With the protest marking its sixth day, some states have imposed curfews to stop the breakdown of law and order being witnessed so far. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
Well, let's also tell you that we understand members of the House of Representatives have yet to implement their resolution to reduce their salaries by 50% for the next 6 months. The resolution passed on July 18 was expected to take effect with the lawmakers' July paychecks. The pledge was made during a debate on a motion aimed at preventing a nationwide hunger protest that began on August 1st. However, the House of Representatives spokesman, Rotimi Akin, has cited bureaucratic delays as a cause of the hold-up. In an interview with Punch newspaper, Akin explained that the delay is due to necessary administrative procedures and coordination with financial institutions. After enduring about 10 years away from their homes, displaced persons from 39 communities have now been resettled and given new opportunities to pick up the pieces of their lives in Ngurosoi of Bama local government. This is part of the resettlement drive in Nigeria's northeastern state of Borno by the government to close all existing IDP camps. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
It's a moment of renewed sense of hope to these persons as they finally have the chance to return to their hometowns amidst cheers. They are now being resettled into newly allocated 500 houses at Ngurosoi, a community known for onions farming.
Champion karaya kula ya isa tulur uskus dinna amma ku ishe har fataro karaya shiru askirin yana ala zaman zasira
mawayel da ben harda gomna ngana a farfa daraja da damiya.
Governor Babagana Zulum led the resettlement ceremony, highlighting the government's commitment to restoring normalcy and fostering economic development in the region.
These are 39 communities comprising 7 village units and 2 district heads.
1,100 households reallocated, the 500 houses built, as well as the 1,000 shelters in addition to the shelters allocated, each lot of household will receive a cash package of 50,000 naira. Each wife his housewife will receive 25,000 naira, along with other essential items such as mats, mattresses, mosquito nets, bean cereals, and agrochemicals.
In Dar es Jamal, these houses are also undergoing construction as more displaced persons are said to be resettled.
About 294 units of these houses has reached an appreciable level. Inshallah, in the next 2-3 months we shall complete, and then this town will be resettled, and then after this town we will also resettle another town, Mainti, Balayobe, amongst others. And therefore, the essence of our resettlement in a dignified manner is to ensure that people will start earning their means of livelihood by themselves. People shall cultivate their lands.
The new settlement includes essential infrastructure such as schools, healthcare centers, among others, ensuring a comprehensive support system for the displaced families. In Bama for News Central, Umori Kirawa.
Thanks for staying with us here on News Now. Guinea's opposition coalition, the Living Forces of Guinea, FVG, has called for renewed national protest against the country's ruling junta, accusing it of obstructing a return to civilian rule. The alliance, which includes opposition parties, trade unions and civil society groups, urged protesters to bring the capital, Conakry, to a standstill on August 12. The junta, which took power in a 2021 coup, agreed on the international pressure to organize elections by the end of 2024. However, the FVG claims the army-led authorities are seeking to extend their hold on power by imposing restrictions on civil liberties and free speech. The crackdown on dissent has led to the arrest of several opposition figures, including anti-junta activist Omar Sila, known as Foniki Mengui, and Mamadou Bilo Ba. Heavy rains have triggered building collapses in Sudan's River Nile state, resulting in the deaths of 17 people in a small town located approximately 400 kilometers north of Khartoum. This disaster occurred as Sudan grapples with nearly 16 months of fighting between rival security forces. According to the state's infrastructure minister, Samir Saad, around 11,500 homes have already collapsed and at least 170 people have been injured. Every August, the peak flow on the Nile, coupled with torrential rains, devastates homes, wrecks infrastructure, and claims lives both directly and indirectly through waterborne diseases. This year's impact is expected to be even more severe due to over 12 months of conflict, which has pushed millions of displaced people into flood-prone areas. The South African Zionist Federation has accused the South African government of aligning with oppressive regimes as a threat of an Iranian attack on Israel intensifies, causing global market instability due to fears of a regional war. In a statement on Tuesday, ZAS spokesperson Relene Marks criticized the South African government for consistently seeking to legitimize terrorist organizations such as Hamas at this critical juncture in global politics. The group urged the government to adopt a more balanced and principled foreign policy stance that recognizes Israel's rights to self-defense. The tensions in the Middle East have escalated following a recent Hezbollah rocket attack that tragically killed 12 children playing football in Israel's Golan Heights on July 27. Joining me to discuss this further is international lawyer Professor Andre Thomas Hanson. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yes, good morning.
Great. Quickly, what are the legal implications for a country like South Africa if it is perceived to be legitimizing organizations designated as terrorist groups by other nations?
Well, something that has been overlooked by many, and maybe even the International Criminal Court, is that we have conventions. We have the International Convention against the Taking of Hostage, adopted by the United Nations in 1979, and of course enforced and of course signed and acceded to by South Africa. We also have the International Convention on the Suppression of the Financing of Terrorism of 1999. And then, very importantly, we have the Organization of African Union, now African Union, Convention on the Prevention and Combating of Terrorism adopted in 1999 and also signed by South Africa. These conventions impose a very strict international law duty on countries not to support any terrorist act and certainly not to support the taking of hostages. It also imposes a duty to help the countries that have suffered from such terrorist acts.
Well, how might the accusations by the South African Zionist Federation impact on South Africa's diplomatic relations with Israel?
Very unfortunately, the diplomatic relations are nearly at a freezing point. The ambassador of Israel has been recalled. There's no more an ambassador in South Africa, and South Africa has recalled their ambassador already quite a long time ago. And the government has very consistently and repeatedly used a very aggressive language against Israel. So diplomatic relations are not good. They are one step from being completely severed.
All right. Can the South African government's stance on Hamas be actually considered a violation of international law or treaties?
Well, that will turn around the definition of aggression and the definition of terrorism. And Hamas, of course, contends that they are only defending themselves against an illegal occupation and against what they believe to be a crime of apartheid committed by the Israeli government. In respect of Gaza, it is very difficult to argue this because Gaza hasn't been occupied by Israel since 2007, when Israel completely withdrew from the Gaza Strip and all authority, all administration was handed over by Hamas. So from then on, it is Hamas who is, for instance, detaining people, who is very mercilessly executing women accused of being unfaithful, and practicing that very radical kind of interpretation of Islam as we, for instance, find it in Nigeria with the Boko Haram. There's hardly any difference between Hamas and Boko Haram. So South Africa is maintaining its very close relations and its affinity to the Palestine cause, but if it should, for instance, send arms or allow mercenaries, volunteer mercenaries to fight on the side of Hamas.
All right, Professor, we'll come back to you and continue this conversation. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. And we're still talking about the Zionist group and the statements being made criticizing South African government. And with us is Professor Thomas Hanson, who's actually discussed this with us so far. But let's take one last question very quickly now. Are there any potential legal consequences, especially for South Africa? You were initially likening it to Nigeria and Boko Haram and so on. But what does this mean for South Africa supporting a terrorist activity in the eyes of the international bodies such as the United Nations?
It is a bit of a crossroads decision. We can only hope that the change of government in South Africa, the recent change in June, which has brought about a new minister of international relations, will bring about more moderation, because the previous minister, Mrs. Pandor, was a very committed and maybe fundamentalist Muslim, and she was very repeatedly heard in assemblies of pro-Palestinian groups praising Hamas. That will no longer happen. And the new minister, who's also from a younger generation, will most certainly be more serious about South Africa's commitment to non-alignment, not being seen to support one or the other side in a conflict.
All right. I want to say thank you so much, Professor Andre Thomas Hanson, for joining us.
Thank you.
And in sports, Nigerian wrestler Blessing Oborududu missed out on a podium finish at the Paris 2024 Olympics, losing the bronze medal match in the women's 68 kg category. Oborududu, the Tokyo Olympic silver medalist, was defeated by 0-3 by Japan's Nonoka Ozaki, a two-time world champion and former youth Olympic champion. Ozaki secured 2 points in the first period and added another point in the second, preventing Oborodudu from becoming the first Nigerian wrestler to win medals at 2 Olympic Games. Oborodudu, a 15-time African champion, was unable to close the gap. African Games and youth champion Christiana Ogunsanya will start a campaign in the women's 53-kilogram wrestling event on August 7. Nigeria's Jordan Wara has signed a one-year contract with Anadolu Efes Istanbul in Turkey. The forward won an NBA championship with the Milwaukee Bucks in the 2020-21 season. He was drafted 45th overall by the Bucks in 2020 after completing his college career at Louisville. Wara played for the Bucks from 2020 to 2023 and also had stints with the Salt Lake City Stars and Wisconsin Herd in the G League. Traded to the Indiana Pacers and later the Toronto Raptors in the 2023-2024 season, he averaged 7 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 1.2 assists. Notably, he scored 36 points for Nigeria against Mali in 2018 and represented the country at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And that's all for the news, especially for this hour. But before we go, let's quickly remind you of some of our top stories. Service chiefs, IGP, have pledged to defend Nigeria's democracy. House of Representatives face setback in salary reduction. We also told you that opposition in Guinea has called for protest against ruling junta. Or don't forget that you can send in your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen. And you can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. And you can watch us live as well on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274. We're live on Avo TV and YouTube, and you can also stream live on Facebook. I'm Joe Hanson. Many thanks for watching. Stay with us. More programming coming your way.